So imagine someone comes to you and tells you, listen, listen, he is risen. He was dead, but he's alive. You're like, who? And they say a name you've never heard of before. He's like, he was dead, but he's alive. You say, when did this happen? And they tell you years ago, years before anybody could have ever known, or we just trust us. You just have to trust. It happened. You say, okay, well, where is he now? And he said, well, he's not here anymore. He's ascended into the sky. But trust us, it happened. He was alive. They killed him, and he came back to life. I want to see him. You can't. You just have to take our word for it. It happened. And just in case you're doubting, there were prophecies that foretold that this would happen. And they show you the books. The books say it was going to happen. And then they say, and it did happen. And you say, but I want to see. And they say, you just have to take our word that it happened. And you say, you talking about Jesus? And they say, no, not Jesus. That's your thing. That's the Christian. This happened in another religion. You say, how do I know you're not just copying off of the Jesus story? It happened before Jesus' story. You're just now hearing about it. It happened before Jesus' story in another religion. How quick would you be to believe them? Would you follow them further? Would you look to see what their holy books or their prophecies said? Or would you just dismiss it out of hand like that's just an outlandish claim? These kinds of things don't happen. And if they do happen, they only happen to one person. And then someone else joins the conversation and they say, well, hold on. Because even in the time of Jesus, there were other stories about people. Some of them real people who have been mythologized, some of them mythological people who have been historicized. And in their stories, there was a resurrection as well. There was a life after death, and not just a life after death, but an ascension. The person was around the time, the days and times of Jesus. And they say, so, okay, maybe you don't believe this other story that you just heard about, but there are stories that actually do predate Jesus. How quick would you be to believe it? Well, I'd like to invite believers of Jesus. Like I once was. I traveled the world telling people that this thing really did happen and that you ought to believe that it happened and that my changed life was proof that it happened, because how else would my life have been changed? I'm now saying I don't think there's any good evidence. There's no good proof for the resurrection of Jesus. And if you think there is, I'm going to invite you to do something bold, to do something. Wait, where'd it go? I was trying to put the link in the chat, but I guess I must have. Hold on for a second. I have to interrupt my flow to get the link. Okay, here it goes. I'm putting a link in the chat right now for anybody who thinks that there's good evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. Please elucidate the matter. Call in. Maybe you can convince me, and maybe if you think I'm a lost cause, you might be able to convince one of our listeners who they may be doubting, they may be questioning things. This is your chance to call in and see how you can defend your faith. So what's up, folks in the chat? I see Mythos Boy, my guy. He says, was first in with the joke. I said, there's no good evidence or no good proof of the resurrection. Mythos Boy says, on the other hand, there is lots of crappy evidence and apologetics for the resurrection. So volume over quantity, man. Yes, I mean, I'm not saying that there's no evidence. I'm saying there's no good evidence. And if you'd like to call in, talk about what you think is good evidence, what constitutes good evidence, and why. Why do you believe in the resurrection of Jesus? And why should I? Why should anybody else? If you're on Instagram, the link is in my bio. And let me go to Facebook and drop the link in the comments on Facebook for anybody who may want to call in. All right. So the link is in the comments on Facebook. Let me pin it. And I can't pin it on my computer. I got to pin it on my phone. So give me a second. Y'all bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves, class. If you're in the chat, say what's up. If you're not in the chat yet, come on into the chat and greet somebody in Reason's name. Somebody asked me in the comments of one of the recent videos, they said, what do you mean by in Reason's name? What does that mean? Well, when I was a Christian, everything had to be done in Jesus's name. And having lost confidence there was any power in the name of Jesus, I don't do anything in Jesus's name anymore. Anything that I do now, I try to do it in Reason's name. What's the reason? Is there a reason for that? So in Reason's name, I'd like you to come into the chat. Now, you could carry that further and say, okay, well, apply that to all of life. What's the reason for all of life then? Can you do life in the Reason's name? We can talk about that. I invite those kinds of conversations. I'm not running from it, but I am running to Facebook to pin this comment. So give me a second. All right. So it's pinned in the chat. And on Facebook, somebody says, Mr. Brazo says, I'm sure you have looked into non-Christian sources during that time of Christ's resurrection. There are no non-Christian sources of Christ's resurrection. There are only non-Christian sources saying what Christians believe. And even some of those, matter of fact, probably the key one that you're thinking about, the non-Christian sources saying what Christians believe, even that is probably an interpolation of Christians adding something in to that person's text. If you're talking about Josephus, talking about Jesus, calling him a man, if he can even be called a man. But I still invite whoever you might be. The link is in the chat on Facebook. It's pinned there. If you're on Instagram, link is in my bio. And if you are here on YouTube, the link is in the chat. So let me go back to the live chat. And hey, Without Faith, good to see you. Murphy Sill, what's happening? Now, so I've heard people say this, right? I've heard people say this before. Atheists say, even if they proved the resurrection, it wouldn't logically follow that he's God. I don't know if I agree with that. I think if they prove the resurrection, it would make me say, okay, if you could actually prove the resurrection, maybe it wouldn't straight away prove that Jesus is God, but it would say, okay, then maybe I have to take his other claims or the claims about him more seriously. And what are those other claims? At some point in the Christian tradition, you do get looking at Jesus as divine, and then eventually not just divine, but as deity. There's a difference between those two. You can be divine and not be deity. Jesus can be a divine son and not be God, a very God. But if they're making these claims that he's divine or that he's deity, and they were able to prove his resurrection, it doesn't necessarily prove it, but it does make me say, okay, then maybe the other claims about him deserve to be looked into. But let's see if we can even get step one down. Can we get a defense for a reason for the resurrection? And I invite anybody to call in and do that. Where's my Thor lightning strike? I had guests in my studio earlier today, and they turned off my lightning strike. Here we go. Mythos Boy says, if you could prove Jesus was resurrected, that would only open up other resurrection claims. Now, that's an interesting idea. somebody who says, Jesus resurrected, then these other resurrection claims might be true too, but you'd have to prove those just like you proved Jesus's resurrection. And if you prove Jesus's resurrection, the question is going to become, what was the power that resurrected Jesus from the dead? And then what is the power that are resurrecting these other people from the dead? So I do have a caller already coming into the chat. Caller, your name is on the screen. Your camera is not on. If you want to change that, you can actually do that right now. Let me check and see. Yes, I see your comment in the private chat. I am primarily looking for theists and Christian theists to come on and defend the resurrection. If you are not a Christian theist and you just want to talk about resurrections in general or divine claims in general, I may entertain it, but I'm going to be looking to move the conversation on to today's topic and opening up the lines for those kind of callers. So just so you know, I'm about to bring you on. And also, I'm not saying this, anybody who's in the queue right now, somebody else just popped in. If you're in the queue, I'm not saying this because I think you're going to do this. I'm just telling you the ground rules. Once I bring you in, I try to be as respectful as I possibly can on here. I have had to kick people from the studio. I have no problem doing that. I'm not desperate for guests. But if I'm talking and you're talking, I'm going to ask us to have a give and take. And if I have to mute you, it's only because I feel like I can't get a word in edgewise, and I try not to do that. I try to let people speak and get their points across. But if I have to mute you, please don't unmute your mic until I tell you, okay, it's your turn to go, just so we can have some kind of order going on. That's the only ground rules I have. So please, y'all, welcome to the stage, Max Doubt. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Max Doubt, can I ask you, are you a theist, agnostic, atheist? Where are you at with the God question?
I would consider myself, well, how people would define it as agnostic. And I look at it, everybody really is agnostic because nobody really knows for sure. You know, and they get a little upset when I say that, but
okay,
it's the truth to me.
So I would probably agree with you that I would have to own the agnostic tag too in some way, but I think I can be more sure about certain God claims. So are you agnostic when it comes to every God you ever heard of, or do you think some of the gods you've heard of, that God definitely doesn't exist? Where are you at with that kind of question?
Studying religion and science, I think that the science is leading toward this didn't happen by chance. The religions, I think, the religions are trying to control people. Like when I read from different religions and I say, okay, there's a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, and I tell people, okay, so you're telling me man is fallible, but you're telling me whatever God they believe in told man to write the book, right? So if man is fallible, he's gonna mess it up. It's just, it's logic. So certain things in there, you say, all right, why wouldn't men, adjust that? Like there's parts that say obey your government, slaves to obey their master. I mean, that doesn't sound like, something that's beneficial. Sounds like a mental control. But as I look deeper and I go into like Eastern religions, Hinduism, Sanskrit, Buddhism, there are like schematics and instructions for technology. It seems to be, as even in the Bible. Like when I tell people about, let me press you on some of that. So even because I've heard people make claims that, like you said, even in the Bible, what's his name? Forget the guy's Billy Carson. He talks about like the Ark of the Covenant was really a electric reactor kind of a thing. Like there's schematics for building, but the question would be, if there are schematics for these kinds of things, these folks didn't really build the things that you would think they could have built from it, that we now could build from it. Would you agree with that? Like, oh yeah, if you go back and read these ancient Sanskrit, they didn't build the internet. They didn't build, right. So what do you mean when you say there's schematics in their writings and all that? Yeah, and I, to make it clear, I don't agree with Billy Carson or any out there. Yeah, they take the kite, they just cut the string and it's gone. But everybody, a broken clock can be right twice a day.
I'm with you there.
Yeah. So like when I look at it, I say, okay, these people, doesn't seem that they built it, but it seems like they documented it or they were like
Hmm.
record keepers. I explain it in a way like I say, okay, the Native Americans here have a legend of the Thunderbird. I said, now if we never saw an airplane ever, say, we've been living in tribal stuff for as long as we can remember, and we see a big silver plane fly over, whether it's breaking the sound barrier or you can hear the jet engines roar, how would we describe that? You see the wings, it's far up in the sky. So we're saying that's like it's a bird, but it's letting off a thunderous sound. So we're going to call that the Thunderbird. Now, as we look into cargo cults of Polynesia, when World War II happened and planes did go there, now this is all documented. They landed, they, made airstrips, and then after the war, they left. These people started making bamboo replicas of the planes and they started clearing airstrips to try to like lure them back. And people wrote books about this, the cargo cult and stuff. So we're seeing, and I don't want to call them primitive because there's some things that people in tribal
Yeah,
nations
I get you.
Exactly. They're way, I mean, I don't think Western civilization exists because to be civil, you have to treat each other with compassion and caring. This is a, a group that has technology, all of us, but where do we get the technology from? So it seems that everything we have seems to have been re-engineered. I don't know by who, but we know that when they put these so-called inventors and all of this, and I said, well, wait a second. In Egypt, I myself have taken pictures in the museum in New York of what appeared to be technology on hieroglyphs, on many like ancient, what they say 4,000, 3,000 year old stuff. And I'm saying that looks very, that looks like technology. Now, when I show it, they try to say, well, they bring in the whole evolution, which I consider another religion because it's based on a belief. If I bring any science into it, they say, well,
Okay, hold on. You said a lot, and I was letting you because I was trying to see where you were going with it. Let me go back a little bit. It's possible that there was technology revealed or at least demonstrated or showcased in front of human beings, and the human beings documented it in the best way they could, whether it be hieroglyphs, whether it be on parchment, or whether it be on whatever, and and that gave the human being something to shoot for. But it's also possible that it happened in the reverse, right? It's possible that human beings saw birds and wished, man, I wish we could do that, and begin to model things that they could create after things that they saw going on. I wish I could go underwater and stay there as long as that whale just did. Let me create apparatus that will allow me to do that to better and better degrees. Like, isn't it possible that it could have happened in the reverse, as opposed to there being some technological advance revealed to humans, and then we recreated it? We just saw nature doing things, parts of nature that we're not, and said, man, I wish we could be like that. And then we use our minds, we use our ingenuity. We didn't just straight away make rockets. We had to crawl before we walked. Even we had to have a plane before we could have a rocket ship. So we gradually, I'm not using evolution the way you just used it, but we gradually evolved in our technology. We didn't start off with, smartphones. We started off with operators plugging in, you know what I mean? You call in and, hey, I want to reach 3571, and they'll plug your channel into another channel. And like, we didn't just come up with technology and all of a sudden we're flying right away. We evolved into what we have today, right?
It seems that there's been re-engineering, like with the computers, right? When you look at the change from the tube to the I think it's a transducer, it reduced the size of them dramatically, and it seems as if something was introduced, like we could find technology today and re-engineer it. The other premise is to say that, thinking that we're the only ones here. Now, I'm not going Billy Carson with craziness. I'm just saying, when you look at microbes to ants to mice to cats to dogs to other animals to humans, why would it stop at humans? Why wouldn't there be more that maybe that we don't know? So the so-called Western civilization that we live in, or any civilization today, kind of looks at it as, well, it's just us, and man is the one that did all of this. He can look at something. But if that's true, many tribal societies would have did this. They over the thousands of years, they would have, like the boomerang in Australia. They said, now this is the tribal people with no religious book, the Aborigines, saying the gods gave it to us. Now, one of the Aboriginal men used that to make a schematic that Igor, I forgot his name. He made the first workable helicopter through this guy's schematic. So I'm saying to myself, could it be some type of genetic intelligence that this man had from, say, tens, 20s of thousands of years ago that is still there? Because with Australians coming there.
Hold on, I'm sorry. But why would you think that, as opposed to this is not just a species on this planet getting better and better at manipulating its environment? Why wouldn't you just think that? Because you're right. There could be any number of other explanations, but you've got to sort of invent them just to believe them, as opposed to the thing that you have in front of you, which is humans getting better at doing things all the time. You see that all the time. Why wouldn't you just think that that's what's happening?
Well, it's because when I look back throughout the archaeological record, I find what looks to be technology, like Egypt had boomerangs in certain sarcophagi. Just the word sarcophagi itself, when they contained Chernobyl, they said they put it in a sarcophagus to contain it. So I'm saying, why would they, like, what does that word really mean? Like, the words tyranny definitely doesn't stem from the gun. It stems from the word. And when people change these words, like evolve, when they say, well, evolution is a fact, don't you see things change? And I say, well, that's called adaptation. Evolution, the word, the Latin word, is to unfold. Now, an event can unfold, but when a species, let's just say a species of cat, changes, it sheds the fur, it adapts. So summertime, it loses fur. Wintertime, it starts to bush up. But also, as the geography changes and the environment changes, it can adapt even more so. We see this with fish. We see this with many animals. So if we're seeing this in the animal world, it seems to be true with humans. But when we look at us, we are dramatically different from everything else. It's like without technology, we're just prey in nature. And when you look at tribes, it's like they're living in accordance with it. But if, stuff hits the fan, they turn into prey, the alligators and stuff. Even today with technology, people getting eaten by animals and stuff if they step in the wrong direction. Humans seem to be more foreign to the environment than any other animal. We need our shelter, we need the clothing, and it's kind of odd that we're here. When you look
Can
at
I
us,
ask you a question? Because you said a minute ago, you said evolution. I think you said, I'm going to paraphrase what you said. You said it's unscientific.
yeah, the theory of evolution, the Western theory, Darwinism, the preservation of the favored races by means of natural selection, because that's the title. The beginning of the title, On the Origin of Species, is what they use. But it says On the Origin of Species, or the preservation of the favored races in the struggle for life. Now, when we
do you know what that title was referring to?
Well, a lot of people try to change that definition, but he was clearly
No. Without changing it, do you know what that title, or the preservation of favorite races, do you know what that is referring to?
That was directly referring to humans.
Have you ever read the book?
Yes, I have. Have you read Descent of Man, the second book?
I've read them both, but here's the thing. If you read the first book, you know that it's not referring to humans. So I don't know that you actually read the first book. I don't know.
I did read. He has letters. And
so no. What is the first book referring to then if you read it?
Well, the first book is referring to life adapting and changing by random.
What specific parts of life is the book talking about?
Well, all right. The pictures that they don't put in, they show monkeys.
The book itself, what specific parts of life is the book referring to?
Oh, hold on one second. I just, yeah, the phone. What it is referring to in the origin of species with the Galapagos Island study
Nope.
that he had, the other study with animals when he was on the Beagle, the ship going around the world. So it documents what he's.
You're giving me all the things that can be known about Darwin's trip and his process. You're not answering my question. I'm going to give you one last chance. The book on the
On the origin of
the
species. Yeah.
the preservation of the favorite races and the struggle for life. What does that book actually refer? What did he write that book to explain?
To explain the
He
theory.
was not talking about humans. What was he talking about?
He was talking about life in general, animal life,
No.
plant life.
There we go. Animal life, and particularly he was talking about plant life and animal life. He mentions humans only a few times in the book. And then he sort of pontificates toward the end of the book that this same thing could be applied to humans, but the book was not written about humans. So when you try to say the preservation of the favorite races, you're actually making a claim about the book that the book itself is not making. But all I'm saying, I only brought that up to say to you, I don't know that you fully understand what evolution actually is to be able to make the claims that you're making about evolution. And this call in right now, I'm actually talking about a specific claim about the resurrection. So we got way off, and I think I liked where you were going, but I just want to try to get back real quick, and then I'm gonna move to the next caller. I asked you, do you think that there is any truth to any of the God claims, or are you agnostic to all of them? Or do you can you say that I know that this particular God, that particular God does not exist? Or do you think, no, I think because these religions or these holy books or these ancient ways of these traditions, they all seem to have been right about maybe technology, right about this, right about that. I think there's truth to all of them. Is that what you're saying? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
No, I'm saying that when people talk about resurrection, it seems to be some type of, if somebody was some type of technology that they didn't understand, that a person could have been brought back. Now, and saying that, the story of that resurrection clearly goes back further. So the Jesus story, if you look at Horus, 12 followers, house of bread, born, to virgin mother. So we start to say, well, wait a second, this story is clearly from older stories. Now, those older stories are going to contain more knowledge, and the telephone game, as it goes throughout the years and centuries, it's going to change. But when I look back at Egypt, or you look into what was it, Mithra, that was another one. Krishna from the Hindus, born Virgin Mother, 12 followers, apostles.
Right. Any of the claims. So I'm not picking on Jesus with this claim in particular at this moment. What I'm asking you is whether you go back and find remnants of or precursors to the Jesus story and any other story. What I'm asking is, do you think that there's any truth in any of them?
I think there is a piece of the puzzle in all of them. Now, just like I said, a broken clock is right twice a day. So there's one factor in all of them that they agree upon: creation. So they all, people, humans were created. In the way they were created, it's a little different. The modern Jesus story, that it has been, it seems to be twisted. Like if you see the Model T, right? And then they say a person only knows cars from, say, the 1960s. And you say, no. There was a car, there were other cars before that. This is not the original car. That's like the Jesus.
I love the analogy. But I think my question is still unanswered. My question is, okay, maybe you based your Trans Am on a fourth generation of an older car model, and you don't know that there's an older car model, but somebody could say, no, guess what? Even the first car model that the Model T was based on was not based on a real car. It was only on a blueprint for a car. What I'm asking is, was there ever a real car that the first blueprint was ever based on, or are they all just based off of an idea that someone had, and then someone else said, oh, I like that idea, but I'm going to tweak it this way. Well, I like your idea, I'm going to tweak it this way. How would we know that there's ever any truth at the base of any of these claims, any of these religious claims of apotheosis or resurrection? How would we ever know, or why should we ever believe or think that there was ever truth at the base of any of them, and not just it began with a story that changed over time?
Okay, one proof or one extrapolation would be blueprints we make today. So there's no car that's produced without a blueprint. There's no building built without that. I'm not saying you
But
can't.
there are blueprints that can be built without a car, right? You can't build a car without a blueprint, but you can
Exactly.
draw up a blueprint without a car.
Yeah. So the blueprint seems to precede the invention. So you would have the
Hmm.
schematic or the blueprint. Now that goes back to the documents we spoke about with these ancient vehicles, mercury vortex engines. Now it sounds crazy, but when I have a person that comes on my show, he's from India and he reads off stuff, and I'll ask him. I'll say, look, is there any validity to this, or what scripture, or because they got like a wide variety of books that I can't even call religious. They're more like documents, kind of like the Sumerian tablets, the hieroglyphs. When we look
Hmm.
at them, even Champollion, when he so-called interpreted it, he said he could be wrong because each hieroglyph could actually be like a computer icon that we know of today and hold a vast amount of representation. And there's something, the theory of evolution, prime suspect, that always says, no, 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 no. We know what it is. I've never heard of an Americanologist or a Romanologist or a Greekologist, but I've heard of an Egyptologist, sort of saying, no, I'll tell you what their history is, even though, it's Kemet or India, they have Induologists. And I'm not, saying nothing against the Western scientists because they come in all colors, Western scientists, but I'm saying, who is the one to determine who, like in another word, they say kind of in a joke, who died and make you God? It's like, how do you know who made you the authority to tell me what consciousness is, how things started, what these people that nobody really knows what they were saying, what they said. So I'm in just a logical way. If we don't know what this scripture is, and somebody comes in and says, well, I've studied this, and well, you could still be wrong too, because it's not adding up with other things we're finding.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to push you. Listen, like I said, if there's some, I'm going to move to another caller. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hearing. How could we know? Why should we believe that there is a baseline truth to claims like the resurrection claim, whether it be Jesus or any other? Why should we not think that they're all just
Okay. The reason
myths?
I would say, is today, for somebody, say, living in tribal society, there's a lot of people that haven't seen modernism. We could fake a resurrection, or we could put somebody under, like kind of like the potion that they use in Haiti from the pufferfish that actually puts you in a catatonic state, and then you revive them. They, kind of with the zombie thing. Now, this is a real powder that they use. It can be used in medicine. We know we can sedate people.
You're explaining why we should not believe in certain resurrection claims. I'm asking, why should we believe in resurrection claims?
Well, if somebody, I don't see, and this, I would ask you, what would we define resurrection as? Are you saying it's like a magical thing that can't be scientifically explained, to say this guy died and he just came back and it was God, and this is why we should do it? Like how are you explaining resurrection? I just want to know so I can answer it.
Well,
properly.
the biblical claim is a man was crucified. This is an excruciating death.
Mm-hmm.
He was crucified, and 3 days later, after his death and burial, he was seen alive again, and people looked at the holes in his hands and the hole in his side as proof that this is the same guy that we just saw on a Roman cross.
Mm-hmm.
And now here he is. Matter of fact, he wasn't just holes in his hands and his feet and holes in his side, but the blood spilled out until there was no blood left. They basically drained his body. He bled out. He died.
Okay.
And 3 days later, they saw him again and saw the wounds, and not just the wounds, but this dude was even walking through walls and all kinds of stuff. That's you were dead, and now you're alive again.
Okay, that's, to me, and nothing against people who are Christian or religious or believe in this, that's a story that is just unconfirmed. I have no way of confirming that story. Now, I'm not saying,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all this call was about. I was just
Yeah.
trying to get to that point.
Thanks. No, you're a cool person. Thank you, man. I was setting up my stream and I said I had left a comment. I don't know. I think you saw it a while ago on one of your other streams. I didn't catch it live. It was a few minutes after I left the comment like, hey, and then when I said, just let me do the daytime thing and I saw you live, I said, oh, man. So I jumped on. I didn't mean to, sidetrack it.
No, it's all good because now here's the thing. And I'll let you go because I got, like I said, 2 other callers now. I keep saying it. Let me just let you go because these other callers are like, you keep saying that. Hey, but thanks for calling in, Maxed Out. Call back in some other time.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Get with you. I am moving to the next caller. T, you're next. And then, oh, wait, there's no more T. I saw a T before. Okay, Champ is next then. So if anybody's like, Brady, why do you let these people talk? Why do you da-da-da-da-da-da? Like I said to you guys last time, I think sometimes it's helpful for people who are still in religion, and Maxed Out said he's agnostic, but he still gives some kind of credence to the ideas that you find in a religion. He thinks that there may be something worth investigating there. There may be, and so even though he's not in any particular religion, there are religious people who think like him, or at least want people to don't be atheistic, be agnostic, be open to the idea that there's some truth in some of these claims. And so even letting someone like Maxed Out talk for a little while, I think the religious person can even hear in him, like, hey, even though I don't fully agree with him, I do think like that. But now that I hear somebody thinking like that, I don't know how defensible that is. And so sometimes I just want people to be heard so that they can feel heard, so that I can hear where they're coming from, so I know how to respond. But I also think it's helpful for people who are just watching and still trying to make up their mind about whether they're going to live the rest of their lives as a believer, to hear what belief sounds like in somebody else, to hear what credulity sounds like. Sometimes the problem is just I'm too credulous. I'm too willing to believe claims. And when I hear other people defending claims, I realize what it looks like to just be overly credulous. And it almost makes people want to like step back and say, man, maybe I don't want to sound like that. I want to be able to defend what I believe a little bit better than that. And then it sends them on a journey and they realize maybe I can't defend what I'm believing. Maybe I'm taking stabs in the dark just like that. So there is a method to my, so y'all look at me and say, Brady, you're so patient. It's not just patience. It is a little bit of strategy on my end. But with that being said, I'm going to bring Champ in. Champ, your camera is off. You don't have to turn it on if you don't want to, but if you want to turn it on, I'll give you a chance to turn your camera on. Your mic is muted. You might want to take a second to unmute your mic, and then I'll bring you in. All right. Welcome, Champ, to the stage. Ken hear you. How are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself, man?
Pretty good. Well, first question for you. Are you a theist, agnostic, atheist? Where are you at with the God question?
I believe in God to the fullest. I believe in the deity. Yeah, to the fullest. The Christian, the follower of Christ is more so my stance. I'm not a big fan of the Christian system, but follower of Christ,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And if somebody called you a Christian, would you argue like, no, don't call me that? Or would you accept it knowing that you know what they mean?
I know what they mean. I don't argue it. I feel like it's pointless to argue that particular point. I'm just not a fan of it personally. Yeah.
Okay. Is it because of the way that modern society has sort of dirtied up the term, or why don't you like the term Christian?
Well,
the Bible says it was in Antioch when they were first called Christian.
Yeah, I agree with that. They were called that, but the Bible doesn't. There's nowhere else in the Bible where they say, "Well, be a good Christian" or anything like that. It just says that they were called that because they were following. They were following they were following Christ. So
you don't see any biblical mandate to own the term.
No, not at all. I feel like it's a man-made thing. It got passed down throughout the years, like most things do, and that's how I look at that.
I could ask you a bunch of questions to figure out what kind of Jesus follower are you, because there's a lot of different denominations of people who say they worship Jesus. But I guess maybe some of that will come out. My main issue is, do you believe that Jesus resurrected or was resurrected from the dead?
Yes, I believe that claim. Yes.
I think that anything that can be claimed can be believed. The question is, why? I guess I'll ask you two questions. Why do you believe it, and why should I believe it?
Well, okay. Well, I can explain why I believe it. I can try to explain why you should believe it, but that's totally up to you.
But it's always going to be up to the person you're talking to. But isn't that your job to explain to people so that they can believe too? Like, that's what evangelism is, right?
Yeah, okay, it is. Yeah, I believe so.
Gotcha. All right, so the floor is yours.
Okay, so I have a bunch of tests personally that I've done towards the how can I put this in words? My biggest thing, this is my biggest thing. My biggest thing is, as the last caller was talking about all different types of religion, my biggest thing is, without some type of power behind it, how has this particular figure talking about Yeshua or Jesus Christ, how has he, we're in 2026, and whether you believe in him or not, he is still the topic. He is still the topic, the subject. He's the subject. He's the subject that everybody is still talking about. Regardless of if you hate him, you love him, he's still that guy. Right?
So let's take it. I'm gonna go step by step with you. Your first line of evidence is, it's been over 2,000 years and people are still talking about him. That should alone make you curious, maybe even a little more credulous that there must be something to the Jesus story.
100%. Yes.
Okay. So let me just ask you about that. Would you do the same thing for anybody else from history that we're still talking about after thousands of years? Would you say, and their claims too must be legit? Only
if they were as, what's the word I'm using? Only if they were as effective, I guess, to culture, change, like literally, the way time is presented, they have since changed it, but the way time was presented at one point, BC,
because it was BC and now AD.
Yeah. So they've changed it, which I understand, but I'm saying that the timeline of history of the human race was based on this man's life and death. If that makes sense.
Does it matter that the people who came up with those designations for time, that they were Christians themselves and therefore they had a motivation to designate time that way? Does that matter?
That matters. Yeah, we can factor that all in.
So the fact that somebody who believed that Jesus resurrected started designating time as before Christ and then the year of our Lord, is that any evidence that the claims are true just because that people believed it, started calling time by his death, by his birth?
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing to that. Even when we look at that, this small cultural group of people whose religion this specifically was, this took over everything. It didn't just affect that particular part of the world. It took over everything. It took over Rome, which was Rome was the modern day America, I would guess, or the modern day Babylon, or whatever, how you put it. It took over everything. Everybody adopted it. People who culture wasn't even that, they still adopted it.
So this is the second time that you used the term everybody. A little while ago, you said everybody's still talking about Jesus, and now you said everybody adopted it. You know that not every culture, not every continent, not everybody followed Christianity, right? You know that there were continents and cultures of people who could care less about a Jesus.
Here's the thing to that, and I agree with you with that. I'm not debating that. Yes, there are tons of cultures.
No, so hold on. So hold on. If you say you're not debating that, then that would mean that your claim that everybody's still talking about Jesus is hyperbolic, right?
No. So here, let me say this. Even with people who don't care about him, there are countries out here that you can lose your life if you believe in him. There's no one else. There is no other character till this day in 2026 who you can die from just for believing and following. You can die from talking trash about Muhammad in certain countries. You can die for that. But there are countries where if you say I follow Christ, I believe in Christ, and you start
Why do
preaching,
you think that those cultures? Why do you think that those cultures do that?
because they don't want to hear the nonsense or whatever the case may be. Whatever the reason it is.
No. Let's not whatever. Let's do a little bit of sociology. Why do you think that some cultures might say, if you're bringing that Jesus stuff to our shores, you're going to lose your life? Why do you think? Do you think that there's something spiritual going on because they hate God or the word of God or the light of Christ? Or do you think that there may be some historical, sociological reasons that Christians have done certain things in Jesus's name, and then other people say, oh, that's what Christians do? We don't want that here, and so you're not going to bring that here, like your colonization, like your slavery, like you don't think that could be part of it?
That could be part of it. I don't think that's the only reason. That could be part of it.
Wouldn't that be a big reason? Wouldn't that be a big reason to explain, oh, it's not just that they hate out Jesus, they hate what people have done in Jesus's name. And that's a little more understandable than the light is shown and men hated the light because their deeds are darkness. It doesn't have to be that, right?
But it doesn't have to be that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the evil things that have been done in Jesus' name. There have been tons of good things done in Jesus' name as well, more than the evil, to be honest. Like, you know what I mean? There are
you're basing your first level of argument is because people are still talking about Jesus and you could lose your life for believing in Jesus. That must mean there's some truth to the claim.
No,
and I'm saying that doesn't necessarily mean there's truth to the claim. There could be historical reasons why.
Yes, it could be, but those aren't the only reasons. The guy. We are in 2026 on a digital platform, and what are we discussing? Me and you, whether I believe in him or not, the discussion is he's still the topic.
But do you know why I'm discussing him? Do you know why I'm discussing him?
What I'm trying to express, what I'm trying to express, and that's why I said, whether you love him, hate him, you're indifferent, he is still the topic of discussion. It don't matter if you're an atheist, an agnostic, a believer, a hater. He is still.
I don't think you're correct when you say it doesn't. Once again, you're saying it doesn't matter why. I think it does matter why. Can you imagine? So right now, right, we've got a bunch of Christians trying to make America a Christian country. You know that, right?
Well, I don't believe in Christian nationalism, but that's a whole nother question.
But you know that's a thing. That's a thing that people are actually fighting for, right? You know that, right?
I hear what
you know
saying.
That in fighting for Christian nationalism, there are people right now who are going around and harassing Muslims because they think that Islam is a threat to the Christian country that they want to have. So being a Muslim in this country, you can be persecuted for being a Muslim. You understand that that's true, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so here I am, not a Christian anymore. I'm an atheist, and I've got people who are trying to make me live by Christian rules. So I've got a very good incentive to be on the internet talking about Jesus. So when you say it doesn't matter whether you love him or hate him, you're still here talking about him. I'm here talking about him because I have Christians trying to make me worship somebody that I do not believe in. That's a good reason to talk about him, right?
I'm not saying it's a bad reason. I'm not arguing reasons. That's the thing.
No. I am though. I am arguing reasons. Because
I hear you. I hear you, and that is a valid reason to talk about him. The thing where you just brought up Christian nationalism, I think that's evil to its core. I think it's racism at its core. I think the country.
I don't know if you understand what's happening, because what's happening is you're saying the reason why you believe the resurrection claims is because people are still talking about him, as if reason that people are talking about him does not matter.
This is
You see what's going on there?
I'm going to try to. All right, I'm gonna use this example. A rapper. I'm gonna use this rapper. Any press is good press, no matter what, right? And and I'm saying this in the sense of it's kind of like what you said. You want people to go on a journey. There's a strategic way of how you approach it because you want people to look at certain things and certain perspectives, and you want them to go on a journey. Well, with press, 50 Cent, I'm going to use him as an example. I hear him say all the time. He's the algorithm. You're talking about me, whether you love me or you hate me. You see what I'm saying? It could be reasons to why you're talking about him. Yes, there could be bad reasons. There could be good reasons. But at the end of the day, he is still the topic of conversation. The same thing, I can look at it from the same perspective when it comes to Christ, right? There were horrible things done in the name of Christ. That's human fallibility. Humans are fallible. They take things, they manipulate things, they make them into what they want to make them into. That happens. That's a part of the game. It don't matter whether you're following Christ or whether you make up your own religion. People start cults all the time and get people to commit mass suicide. That's a part of human life. So I get that. So when you get a Christian nationalist or you get a Latter-day Saint or Catholic or whatever, or you get some of these denominations who go off the sidelines, right? The reality of it is it's kind of like history. Like 50 took a playbook out of Jesus Christ. 50 took a play out of Jesus Christ's playbook to be the topic of discussion. Whether you love him, whether you hate him, you're talking about him. He is in your algorithm. Christ is still in the algorithm. Has there been dumb things done in his name?
Champ, I'm going to ask you to move to your next one because you gave me so far the fact that people are still talking about him after 2,000 years. I don't think that's a good reason because we still talk about other things after 2,000 years. That doesn't necessarily mean that any of those things are true. You said because you could lose your life for talking about him.
He's the only one. He's the only one. He's the only one you can use your.
Once again, maybe you'll go back and listen to this and you realize that just because you could lose your life for talking about him does not mean that there's some kind of spiritual reality to him. There could be very good historical, sociological reasons why people don't want you talking about Jesus in their unchristian country. There could be reasons.
I agree with.
So you have any other reasons why? Any other good proof for why you believe the resurrection other than those two?
The second one, I mean, all right, so the move to the
we gave me two already. 2,000 years he still talked about, and you could lose your life for believing him. Those are two of yours. Give me another one.
I mean, he's till this day still one of the most important people in history. Henceforth, pointing back at my first one.
That's not really a separate point. Give me something else.
All right, so another point is when he came, when we talk about like Horus and all the other resurrected people, when he came, he spoke to the inner man. He spoke to the inner man, right? Love your neighbor as yourself.
I'm sorry, hold on. He spoke to the inner man?
The inner man, meaning he held a mirror up to the person who he reveals himself to, if that makes sense. Or the person looking to be free from whatever it is they're dealing with. You know, if they're dealing with some type of struggle, they're down. When he says, I am the, my burdens are light, my yoke is easy. I am the, I'm the doctor. I've come for the sick, not the healthy. Like when he speaks on that, in that particular thing, people who come in contact with this deity or this spirit, his Holy Spirit, it's a sense of, it kind of mirrors the disciples actually seeing him when he was raised from the dead. So like, you can't get away from that in a sense. You can't get away from that. I know I was down and out. I was in a dark place. This deity, this spirit revealed itself to me and my eyes were open.
So if you've ever listened to conversion stories from people of other religions, they say the same things. They say it's like the scales fell off my eyes. They say there was like this warmness going, and they're not talking about Jesus. They're talking about all different kinds of religions. You had an experience that made you feel like. So hold on, you just gave me two reasons. I want to separate them. The first thing you just said was Jesus said things that challenged people and spoke to them in ways that I guess resonated with them. Is that the reason why you're saying?
I guess you could use that term, but I was speaking more so he pulled them from dark places in a sense. He spoke to the inner man. He spoke to the inner man into words though you had to look at yourself.
Okay, so but he could have just been a good teacher. He could have just been a proto psychologist of the ancient world. He could have been a good study of human nature. He could have been any of those things. He could have been just a great rabbi. The rabbis were known to be able to speak about things in ways that were sort of like almost otherworldly. Like, why does any of that substantiate the claim that he rose from the dead and not just while he was alive, he was a dope dude?
Because those other people are not still being talked about. Not at his level.
So it seems like your reasons are all circling back to the first reason. I'm gonna let you go in a second. Do you have any other good reasons why? Because so let me ask you this: he's still being talked about, but you could still talk about somebody who died after they died. We still talk about Michael Jackson. We still talk about somebody in the chat mentioned Muhammad. We still talk about all kinds of people after they died. Why does that make you think? Not just that his life was valuable, but he also had an afterlife where he rose from the dead. Why do you think that's true?
So when you just said that they are literally trying to make the most powerful country in the world a country of following this particular God, that has power. That has power. People. Even on an entertainment level, I said 50 Cent. It don't matter. Actors, musicians, they want this power. They want to be seen. They want people.
But champ. In every Muslim country, and in the country, so Iran, for instance, right? There was a time in Iran's history where they had got away from being a theocracy, but then it flipped back to being a very strong theocracy. Just because someone tries to make a country follow the rules of a religion, does that necessitate that the religion is true?
No, it does not. I'm not that, and that's not what I'm saying when I say that about.
It sounds like that's what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, first and foremost, it points to me to the human psyche in general. That humans are constantly trying to worship something. All right, but the bigger picture is. They are still worshiping and fighting over this particular guy who claimed to be God in the flesh. Until this day, he is the most important figure in human history. That alone, for me, because he would die down. If it was a fluke, if it didn't have some type of power behind it, you could call it divine power, you could call it witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. There is power behind it for the fact that person who existed.
Champ, it dies down every day. People come to their senses every day and say, oh, you know what, that claim, I was wrong for believing that claim, that there wasn't enough evidence for that claim. My epistemology was too low. That's why I accepted that claim. You said it would have died down by now, but it's not like it's enduring amongst the same people. It's going into people's ears. They're considering it. They may even worship for a time, and some continue. Others don't. It dies down every day. So its longevity, just because there's a sucker born every minute, there's a sucker born every minute. Just because somebody buys into something doesn't make it true.
Listen, and that's how you want to look at it. I listen. I don't
debate that. What I am saying, here's what I'm saying. I don't care. You said like musicians. People still listen to Tupac. People still listen to Elvis, but they aren't as big as they was when they were alive. They just weren't.
So I'm going to ask you to, because I know that there are Christians who are probably watching, and they're saying this is not how you defend the resurrection, but this is how you, because I didn't ask you why Christians believe the resurrection. I asked why you believe the resurrection. I think there are very many
I'm not
Christians who would
defending
say,
it for Christians, though. I'm not defending it for Christians.
followers of Jesus, worshipers of Jesus. There may be some other reasons why that might bolster your claims.
I can use my own personal experience, but what is that doing? What is my personal experience doing for you?
Yeah, you're right. So before I let you go, let's move to the other part of my question. Why should I believe that somebody could live, die, be violently killed, and then come back to life? And not just that it could happen, but that it did happen in the person of Jesus. Why should I believe that?
Well,
this is what I'm gonna say to that, and I can go on and we can go back and forth. But what I'm gonna say to that is, because he lived a perfect life in a world that is flawed, full of sin, he lived a life as if it was your life in exchange to.
Well, hold on, because you're giving me a bunch of claims. Why should I believe that? Why should I believe those claims?
And that's the point of when you said defending the resurrection. When you just said defending the resurrection like a Christian, that is the point that I've come to realize. I can only lead you to the water. I can't make you drink it. My experience is my experience with God. My experience is my experience. You know what I mean? That's all I can say. Paul's experience was his. Peter's was his. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality. Hey, me and you had a great conversation on Saturday. That was me. We were going back and forth with about where I said you're just throwing it at the wall trying to make it stick, and you said I was being ignorant when we were talking about
on the Facebook page.
Yeah, we were talking about
What's your name on Facebook, real quick?
John. I don't want to. You got a lot of people. I don't want to be harassed.
Or something like that. I'm sorry. I don't want to put your. Okay. I remember now. Yep, I got you.
Another thing is, dude, me and you, back when Everyday Process was doing their first album, working in the studio in Philly, I was hanging out with you guys in the studio that time. You were still a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, yeah. So we were going back and forth about that, and yeah, I can go deep about like my personal experience and my walk with God and what He's brought me from and things like that. The issue is when talking to somebody who looks at the world from a naturalist perspective, there's a different way I approach it. There's a different way I approach it because you don't care about none of the other stuff. You don't care about that. To you, that is already gone. So I personally approach it from the perspective of how this person is looking at the world. You look at the world from a naturalist perspective, okay, we can talk about it from that perspective then. If someone's broken and open to talking about God from another perspective, then I'm approaching from that perspective. But yeah.
I wish I had known from the jump that this was you, because we probably have a few other conversations we need to wrap on because we've been going back and forth for so long. But I thank you for calling in for the day. I got to let you go on this point.
No problem,
but I appreciate the call. Let's kick it again sometime.
Yeah, we will.
All right, get with you. All right, so I see that my Instagram has dropped and I don't know how to get it back on. So we're rocking with YouTube and Facebook at this point. Yeah, interesting calls. I'm still looking for theists who would call in to defend why the resurrection of Jesus Christ is believable. I don't think it is, and haven't heard any good reasons for believing it. But if you're listening, one of the things that you may be hearing is maybe it's making you say, damn, do I really have good? I mean, I know the claims, and I'll just talk, from my personal life. I said this on Facebook a couple hours ago. I was in court all morning with a loved one who was facing charges for some domestic stuff. And the person was lying on him. And it was funny because we were in court and even the judge's face was like, this don't even make no sense. But we had to go to court because anybody can make a claim. And just the fact that someone can make a claim, someone's going to believe those claims and then live in light of those claims. Just because people have believed the claims of the resurrection and been living in light of them, just because whole nations adopted, like, oh, this Christian thing, we can't kill it, let's embrace. None of that makes the claims any more true. And maybe you've never even stopped to think about, do I have good reason to believe? One of the reasons I hear often, and I was maybe hoping that somebody would bring this up so we can talk about it. One of the claims I hear often is, why would they have died for a lie? Maybe that's why you think this is worth you believing. If you saw somebody die for a claim, would you say, oh, shoot, they willing to die for it? Okay, I'll die for it too. Would you believe something just because, it's like your mom used to tell you, if your friends went and jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge with them? Even if the claims of the disciples dying for their faith, which were true, and we don't have any good reason to think that they are, but if they were true, so what? People go to great lengths for things that are not true all the time. We live in a country where right now, over 30% of the population thinks the election of 2020 was stolen from Donald Trump, even though all the evidence is to the contrary. And these people are willing to unalive people because of their beliefs and put their own lives on the line because of their beliefs. Somebody's willingness to believe something and die for it should not be the thing to make you say, then it must be true. You should need more than that. And a God who is all powerful should be able to give us better evidence than that. I was joking with somebody on my Facebook page the other day. I told a joke, and they said in the comments of the joke, I'm effing dead, with a bunch of skulls after it. And I joked about their response. I said, that's okay. Jesus specializes in resurrections. Only problem is you'll be seen by 500 people for 40 days and then you'll never be seen again, because that's the resurrection of Jesus. What sense does it make that Jesus really did rise from the dead, and then rather than stick around like, hey, y'all, all of y'all, come have a Doubting Thomas experience. Y'all come see the holes in my hand and put your hand in my side and believe on me. And rather than do that, the God-man, who's in no rush, like, what is he rushing back to? He's omnipresent in some sense. Why does he have to go? If you really did rise from the dead, why did you have to leave? Why did you have to vanish? Why did you stick around for 40 days and then say, now I'm out of here, and everybody else just has to believe your word of mouth? Why would you do that to people? That's the same kind of evidence that a scam artist would leave. None, except for the testimonial. But if you think there's good reason to believe in the resurrection of Jesus, if you think there's good proof, good evidence for the resurrection of Jesus, I invite you to call in, and I'll drop the link in the chat again. Wait, that's not the link. Give me a second. Hold on. Okay, here's the link in the chat. And if you're on Facebook, scroll up to the top comment. The link is there. Would love for a Christian theist to call in and tell me, why do you believe in the resurrection? Why should I believe in the resurrection? And if you think there's no hope for me, maybe you'll rescue somebody else's faith who's watching. Why should they believe in the resurrection? In the meantime, if you don't mind, I'd like to give a shout out to some folks. All these good peoples here. If you're a Patreon supporter, if your name is on the screen, your name is in my heart, and I appreciate you rocking with the channel. Yep. So call in, I'm not going to be disrespectful to you. You're not going to be disrespectful to me either, but I'm just here to have discussions. I want to know, I want to understand. And I'd like you to maybe be able to understand why someone like me who preached this gospel, believed in this Jesus, worshiped this Jesus, why I would abandon this faith. Why would I abandon the Bible as I thought it was a guide unto my feet and a light unto my path. No more. Why? Why would I walk away? Call in and let's chop it up. Let me see what's happening in the chat. Are y'all behaving yourselves? MJ Davis 20, good to see you. The Truest, what's happening? It's Sage. What's going on? And here's what I'm probably going to ask you all to do. And I don't want to stop anybody from having fun, but I also don't want the fun to be at the expense of anybody's self-image or esteem or emotions. You might feel like you want to clown a guest. I don't even I'm not your father. I'm not going to don't do it here. But just think, if you were one of these people calling in and then you saw people making comments about you, you could read comments that make you feel bad. You could read comments that make you feel defensive, or you could read comments that make you say, okay, these people are not assholes. These people are not evil. These people don't want the worst for me. They seem to want my best. They just disagree with me vehemently. What kind of comments in the chat would make you, if you were the believer calling in and not doing so good of a job defending your faith, what kind of comments would make you read it and say, I want to come back to this community and maybe try to do a better job, or maybe see why they're saying what they're saying, as opposed to just writing the community off. So I'm not saying you can't clown people in the comments. You do whatever you want to do. But I guess what I'm asking you for is, as much as we promote deconstruction here, try to make your comments as constructive as possible. And I understand that there is a place for, reducing somebody's position to absurdity, showing how absurd you think their comments are. But could you do it in a way that's also constructive? If you can, kudos to you. If you just want to laugh at somebody's expense, I mean, it could be that too. But I don't know if we're going to win people that way. I don't want to win over people. I want to win people over. So if you can help in that regard, I would appreciate that. But you do your thing. If you have fun just coming here and laughing at callers, I don't want to take that from you either. But let's try to make it as constructive as we can. And I'm not saying it because I saw any particular comment. I'm not coming at anybody. I didn't read any comment. All I read just now was names of people as I was scrolling. And I didn't even read every name. I just was reading the names that caught my eye. So I'm not coming at anybody when I say that. Any callers out there, any theists, any Christians who would like to tell your story as to why you think the resurrection is believable, why you think there's good evidence, good proof for the resurrection? I don't think there, and I'll just show you, even I am practicing what I just preached to you all. When I was coming up with the title for this episode, I initially titled it, what was it? Believing the resurrection is foolish. And then I thought about that. And I thought, that might be antagonistic, but I don't know if I even want to come across like that. And so I changed it. There's no good proof of the resurrection. So even I am thinking about ways to be constructive, even as I'm trying to author deconstruction exercises for folks. So we will all bear with one another in this process, on this project. If you're a atheist, agnostic, and you just want to call in and maybe you want to explain real quick why you stopped believing in the resurrection, I'll take those calls even. I won't linger or labor those calls, but while we're waiting for theists and Christians to call, if you want to just pop in and say what's up and talk about why you ceased believing the resurrection, you can holler for a second as well. But I was all in. I was all in. I was storing up treasures in heaven, or so I thought, not on earth. I wouldn't buy my dream car because I didn't want to drive around earth looking like I thought this was where it was at. I wanted people to know that my treasure was in heaven. I was all in on this gospel project. It was my light and my life until it wasn't, until I began to see just how dark my mindset had to be to keep believing these claims without evidence, to keep believing these claims, not without evidence, but with such poor evidence. But if you think there's good evidence, this is your chance to call in. Let me look at the Facebook comments. I don't have that. Let me pull it up on my computer here and see what the Facebook comments be like. Where is it at? Okay, here it is. I'm just diving into Facebook real quick to see. James Pesh says, have you tried to tackle Gary Habermas's minimal approach? I have not, but I am a big fan of Paulogia, and Paulogia has been going back and forth with Gary Habermas for years. Yeah, I think if anybody ever came with his minimal facts approach, I don't know. I think I might try Apologia's response, because why reinvent the wheel? All right, I'm going to stick around for a few, see if anybody's going to call in. Atheist or atheist? The floor is open for anybody to call in right now while we wait for conversation partners. The Truest says you don't have the link pinned to call in. And I can't do it on YouTube. I have to keep posting it on YouTube. On Facebook, it should be there. But on YouTube, I can't do it while I'm on live. I feel like I did it once, but then never again. I don't understand why. But I'll go to YouTube just to see if I can. Let me see. Yeah, I can't even see the comments on YouTube. And so since I can't see the comments, I can't put the let me see if I go to my studio. Maybe I could do it from my studio, my YouTube studio. I'm just trying to see if I can pin this comment there. Nope, it's not here. So I can't do it there. Oh, one last place I could check. What's funny about some of these apps is you have access to different parts of the app on different devices. Like on your phone, you can't get the link to do X, Y, and Z. On the desktop, you can't get the link to do, but you can't do the same thing on all of them. So let me go here and see if it's live. Okay, so now I can, let me see if I can see the, No, I can't get to it. View on YouTube. Nope, I can't see the comments. I can only see the live chat. So I don't know how I would do that. So I'll just keep posting it in the comment section in the live chat for the time being. But Truest, what's good? Welcome to the studio. And you're going to have to forgive me. I know who you are, but I don't know who you are because your name on here is not the name that I'm used to seeing. So remind me who Truest is.
Man, we did a life after faith.
No, but remind me what if you don't want to say it's okay, I'll just deal with you as Truest, but remind me if you want to, if you can remind me of the other name that I know you by. You don't have to.
The most famous rapper from Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. I was about to say Tariq. Nah. What's good, man?
Man, what's good? We were Facebook friends, but you deleted me, bro, or something.
No, I don't delete
maybe on
anybody
accident
on my page wilding out.
Maybe on accident or something. But
so wait, you see us as not friends now?
Yeah.
And is your name on Facebook the famous rapper name?
Yeah.
All right, let me search for you right now. But what's good, man?
But it's all good, man. I was doing a bunch of stuff here, but the Jesus topic is one that always gets me. I stopped believing in the resurrection pretty much. How did I put it last time? Oh yeah, when I stopped believing that he was God. It was like at the same time.
So a minute ago, somebody said in the chat, even if somebody proved that Jesus resurrected, that wouldn't prove he was God. But for you, if he's not God, then the resurrection goes away.
Yeah, it all fell apart at once because after I saw the one lie, I'm like, oh man, it just everything fell away at once. So, well, not everything. So I realized that he didn't say that he was God in the Bible. And that's when I told you one of my buddies had loaned me a Quran, and I read the Quran, and in the Quran he said, "Why would I say that which I had no right to say," or something like that about being God. And then that didn't tell me that he said it. It told me that anybody could put words in his mouth. And
yeah.
That's when it all started falling apart. And currently, I'm leaning towards mythicists, to be honest with you.
Wow. And you know what? For some reason, I don't go that far. And maybe the only reason why I don't go that far, to be honest, for those who are watching, mythicism is the idea that Jesus never existed. He was a myth that became historicized over time. But the reason why I don't go as far as mythicism is that I just don't care to. Like, it doesn't even matter that much to me. It's even more fun if he did exist, because that way I think it's easier to explain how a real person could be mythologized after too long.
Yeah. I don't think that it's impossible, but it kind of just went along with, they kept lying to me. And I'm like, well, how far does this lie go? And then I read Bart Ehrman, because I was a historicist, and I read Bart Ehrman, and I'm like, all these historicists have been so gung ho and 100% about there being a guide, and he laid out the evidence, and I'm like, it's not adding up. It's just not adding up. So,
hey, real quick, what's your avatar or your picture on Facebook? Because I see a bunch of Will Smiths. I don't know which one would be you.
I think it's me and my dogs. Like DMX.
Oh yeah, I remember that picture. You're not in Atlanta, right?
Illinois.
Bro, I don't even see you coming up on my joint. I didn't delete you. I promise you that.
I'll add it again. But it wasn't a biggie.
Yeah, please do.
But
all good.
I usually just read and laugh.
Oh, you missed so wait, Does this mean that you? Oh, because you can't comment now. Dag, yeah, for sure. We got to get you back in. I have no idea what happened. Maybe Facebook did a cleanse or something like that.
That could have been. You know,
Yeah.
Zuckerberg always up to his old tricks.
Yeah. Nah, no doubt. Hey, but thanks for calling in, bro. I appreciate
sure.
you. And make
All
sure
right,
we
man.
get reconnected. All right, get
Indeed.
with you. My unique Monique, good to see you. Truth Bullet took a guess. You are correct. Somebody else was in. I saw somebody else pop into the queue to call in, but they disappeared. Not sure who that was. If you want to call back, because I've been on for an hour and a half so far. I'm going to be on for at least 2 hours longer. I plan to be on at least till 6. But if I get a good call, I will stick around for a little bit more. Is anybody in the chat, especially if you're deconverted, is anybody going to church on Easter this coming Sunday? Yesterday was Palm Sunday, and I've got very fond memories of Palm Sunday, but my Palm Sundays are me and my best friend as a kid. We were, with the same church. We could not wait until after church so that we could take the palms, because we used to stand in church and sing, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. I used to love those songs that had this sort of this Jewish melodic tone to them. But after we sung Hosanna, that was one good memory. But afterwards, we would go out into the church parking lot and pretend that the palms were swords, and we would be, trying to sword fight with the palms from Palm Sunday. And then, of course, they would get limp, and then we'd go get new palms, and those are my favorite memories of Palm Sunday. The Truest says, no church for me. MJ Davis, now I only go to church when I'm home. Bedside Baptist with Pastor Pillow. Hell no, I'm not going to church. My guy Lex is in the queue. What's going on, sir? What's happening with you? I can't hear you. Got to unmute.
Grace and peace. How are you?
What's chilling, man? What's happening with you?
Well, I just saw you on. Just finished Florida Virtue with my girls, and I figured, hey, let's build.
You said you just finished what?
Florida Virtual. We out here in Florida.
Oh,
Florida,
okay. That's what's
public
up.
Florida Virtual School, yeah.
Okay. Florida's like my second home. What part of Florida you in?
Right over here by Tampa.
Yo, that's where I be. That's my okay.
Word? Oh yeah, I'm like 40 minutes from there.
Okay. And
you have to let me know. You have to let me know next time you come down, yo.
So wait. Are you saying that that's where you live?
I'm 40 minutes from there.
I didn't know. Had you always been down there?
I was in Jersey, 2016. I moved down here. I seen you in Jersey. We met in Jersey at the Bonfire Autumn Blaze. We was there. You was at Christ Tabernacle.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yo, Christ Tabernacles, yo. I remember when you came there too. I was downstairs with y'all. We done missed the whole thing, but we made it at the end, and we were breaking bread with y'all.
Yo, we got history. That's crazy. Yo, so my dad is in Tampa. That's where I vacation, and I'm getting down there pretty soon. But hey, Lex, I'm curious because I know that you're pulling your worldview together. You pull from this strand and that strand, and you kind of got your own. When it comes to the resurrection of Jesus, yay, nay, what do you say?
Well, I would say yay.
Okay. Why?
First of all, we would have to deal with resurrection.
Okay.
What is your definition, interpretation, or should we just go to the Greek and Hebrew on resurrection?
Well, no, for me, it's very simple. Somebody who was dead is now alive and showing proof that I'm the same God that you saw die. I bled out on the cross. They stuck a spear in me and all the blood put out until there was no blood left. I was dead and now here I am alive. Resurrection.
All right. Now, dead, right? Because even Paul talked about dead. And when he talked about the dead, there were actually people that were still living. Like even
I'm not
the
sure
like
what
the,
you're talking about.
so when it comes to resurrection, you have like let's see if we go to, for example, remember in Ezekiel, the dry bones
Yeah,
when
that's
they
the vision that he
resurrected,
had. Mm-hmm.
when they resurrected and came back and lived,
Mm-hmm.
or even during like the crucifixion. And then they said the tombs opened up and the dead came out, and you had that type of resurrection as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you're
So
talking about. Like,
hold on, wait.
go
Would
ahead.
you agree that what Ezekiel is writing about and what Matthew's writing about and the people that got up out the graves, would you agree that those are two different kinds of resurrections?
Well, this is the resurrection that's being spoken about from the beginning to the end. It's not until we get into the doctrines of men where we start thinking about zombies walking around like the Walking Dead.
So hold on. But I just if you can give me a yes or no, what Ezekiel saw in his vision, can these bones live? And then a great wind comes, and that's different than what Matthew's writing about. Would you at least agree that those are two different kinds of resurrections? One is a vision that somebody's being shown by God, and it's representative, it's almost symbolic. The other is writing about people who literally died, physically died, and now physically they're alive again. Or do you think that no, they're not the same? Or do you think that they're I'm asking, I think there are two different kinds of resurrections being spoken about. One is about the nation of Israel being brought back into being God's people. The other is about literal people raising.
Yeah, so yeah, it would be kind of both, because like I said, when they started bringing in the doctrine, the dogma of like, you know, the dead being raised up or beamed up, you know, with the rapture coming out, even with that, the dead being raised or resurrected in that. Remember that?
You
When they
lost me real
say,
quick.
I don't know, you know about the rapture, right?
Well,
That
I mean,
doctrine.
depending on what kind of Christian you talk to, the rapture is not a biblical thing. People are taking passages and misinterpreting them to even come up with the idea of a rapture.
Well, there you go. So my point is right there, you nailed it, is that the doctrine of the resurrection, just like the doctrine of the rapture, becomes man-made when it's not flowing through the same context from the beginning of the stage. Like they started to switch it and make it a physical resurrection when the whole time it was a spiritual resurrection. And
So when
first,
Jesus says to them, look, I'm not a ghost. Matter of fact, you have anything to eat? Okay, let me get some of that fish. He eats the fish and digests it. And he says, see, I'm not a ghost.
right.
But even before that happened, the doors were locked and they were all together. And Jesus comes in to be with them without going through the door. So you got something going on here that the author is trying to convince you. This is a person who's physically here with us. Same person that was physically here before the crucifixion, died and now came back to natural physical life. You're saying it's not that kind of a thing, it's something else?
Because when you think about it, you can't, that doesn't happen. Like that's not real. So, you know, you can't really do that.
It's a miracle. The author's point is you would think it's not real, but it's a miracle. God raised him from the dead. Are you trying to say that the author is not trying to tell us that a miracle happened?
Oh no, I mean the miracle is the of the resurrection of those that were dead, spiritually being coming alive. Like for example, like a miracle like that. But as far as like you know, moving a mountain, like praying and moving a mountain, and then here goes, you have faith, and then that mountain moves. You know, I think a lot of things get mixed up like that.
All right, so this is my best attempt at trying to nail down what it is you're actually saying and believe. What do you think the resurrection of Jesus is?
So when it came to the whole, it's redemption, it's salvation, deliverance, within your life, within oneself.
What did it have to do with Jesus? Like, why? I guess I'm curious. what are the writers writing about? Because they're saying that that's the benefit of his resurrection, is that now those who believe in him, they get the same. We were lowered with him in his death, and we're raised with him in his life. But if he has not risen, then Paul says your hope is in vain if Jesus is not resurrected. So I understand that the impact of it is those who believe get his resurrected life, but is there any actual resurrected life in him?
In him? Say that part.
Yes.
What do you mean in him?
In him, meaning, is he the first fruits of the resurrection? I mean, he's the first one to experience I was dead, but now I'm alive again. I was physically dead, flatlined, but now I'm alive, flesh and blood, living again. Did that happen to Jesus?
Right. When it came to the physical, no, it would have been spiritual.
So anybody can make spiritual claims, and we can't really verify whether or not those claims are true or not. So for that matter, if it's just a spiritual resurrection, we can't prove or disprove that.
Well, you would go through the story, you know what I'm saying? Like from beginning to end, like from the first thing, it was, once you eat of this, you will surely die. You know, on this day, you'll die. You know,
was that a physical death or a spiritual death?
Exactly. So it goes right back to the beginning. It was spiritual from the beginning, but it was taken physical. So from that whole time, most people now in their mind, it's a physical death, but it's been a whole separation from self from the beginning.
Can I ask you to do something?
Go ahead.
Have you ever read? I don't think you did, and it's no offense if you haven't. I don't care. I'm just asking. Have you ever read my book, Let There Be Gaslight?
You know, you haven't sent me a copy.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you. Would you prefer digital book, physical book, or audio book?
I mean, a physical book autograph would be awesome, but you know what I'm saying? You can do it.
Because to do that, it comes from Amazon, and they would have to first send it to me, and then I got to write it back out to you. It's going to come right from the.
You know, you have to sign it when you come to Tampa.
I'll do that. But here's what I would like you to do, because there's so much that you're saying.
Go ahead.
That I would love to see, because you've got a creative mind. I would even say a creative theological mind, because just because it's not Christian theology doesn't mean it's not theological. But you've got a creative mind. But I would love to just put in front of you what I've uncovered about some of these stories, the Genesis story and then the Jesus story, and just see what your mind does with, because the thing that boggles my mind is you seem to pull from these stories as if there's some truth to them, but it's not the truth that the stories are saying, it's the truth that you import to them.
I think it's the truth that the story is saying, but because it's been so interpreted and stuff like that, that people fell off track and think that, you know, God is on the outside at the temple, because it's been the whole game the whole time, not realizing that in the beginning, you'll be like God. Man, wake up, you is God. That was the whole, boom, got you right there from the get-go.
But even what you're saying there, I think you have the freedom to read that into the text.
Right.
Because I think you don't understand what was actually there. Like, what if you had a good understanding of what they were actually pulling from when they put those stories together, it might even give you more things to play with theologically. But I think you're even trapped in even the idea that it was a spiritual death being talked about there is something that I think you're being hedged in by Christian doctrine. The Christians were the one that came along and said, oh, the death in Genesis 3 was a spiritual death, not physical. The Christians added that to it. That was never there before.
No. So you think it was physical?
I do.
So,
but hold on. Even when I say I think it was physical, I'm not saying I think it literally happened. I'm saying
here's how I would correct that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I do all my correction within the text to correct. So, and I just use a little bit of logic and reason. So the reason why they got kicked out, or they wasn't supposed to go eat from the tree of life so that they could live forever. So at the end of the day, it was something that was going to happen anyway. That's why we need the tree of life. The tree of life. And that was another thing, yo. people don't even understand what the tree of life is. But for this analogy right
How are you
here,
so sure? How are you so sure that you understand what the tree of life is?
well, to the fullest extent, it's like way beyond the grass. But to uncover enough to have, the understanding, the understanding, and the overstanding, that's where it lies. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't know everything, but what you do know, everything is kind of in there, and you got to kind of see how it relates to you and
I would
me.
love to give you some more Lego blocks to add to your construction.
No, I'm excited for that. I've been looking for this.
I'm gonna send you a copy as soon as I get done with this live. Matter of fact, inbox me on Facebook a mailing address for you, and it's to you as soon as they can print it. It's to you.
Yeah,
and we can chop it back because I'm looking forward to chopping up with you with some of this because I don't want to spend the time to kind of lay it out here.
Right.
I got a specific aim here. But
yeah, I'm gonna let you get back to that. I just wanted to tap in, and I'm gonna inbox you, and we're gonna build too. And we'll even build more for our offline too.
Appreciate that.
All right, bro.
All right, get with you.
All right, later.
All right, I got a good 20 minutes left, 22 minutes left. I was going to be on. Oh no, I got on at 4. I was supposed to get on at 3. I got on at 4. Maybe I'll go till 7 if I get another good caller or two. The link is in the chat. My Unique Monique has been posting it. I just posted it again. If you're on Facebook, scroll up. It's the top comment. I would love to talk to a Christian theist who thinks there's a good reason to believe that Jesus was resurrected, raised from the dead. You're about to celebrate Easter. You're going to go in and sit around with other Christians and, yeah, we got new life, don't we? Because he was risen, we're going to be raised too. And death couldn't beat him. And because death can't beat him, death can't beat us. And our sins, you're going to go celebrate this. And I think it's a great hope, right? They say the first law of nature is the law of self-preservation. Living things that have become alive tend to want to stay alive. They want to keep getting energy. They want to conserve their energy. They want to stay alive based off of their energy. And so the thought of living forever, that resonates with us. I'm not saying that the hope of the resurrection is not an understandable hope. What I'm saying is Jesus having been raised from the dead, there's no good reason to believe that. And if you disagree, this is your chance to call and talk about it. You might save my soul. You might save the soul of somebody who's watching and doubting. And maybe you feel like God wants you to come and defend the faith, to fight this battle, not for my sake, but for the sake of some listener, some watcher out there who's taunting your God. Here are you. You might come in here like David. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Not that I'm uncircumcised, but who is this dude dissing the armies of the living God? And you're going to come in here with your 5 smooth stones or your 5 smooth arguments for your God and the resurrection. And you might hit the giant be good and slay me. This is your chance to call in and let's talk about it. Meanwhile, let's see what's happening in the chat. Hey, Eddie, good to see you. What's happening? Somebody asked me, is there a schedule for this channel? I need to post one on the actual page. I think the schedule for the foreseeable future is going to be Mondays and Tuesdays from like 3 to 7. I'm gonna do live call-ins Mondays and Tuesdays, 3 to 7 p.m. Thursday night, exit strategy at 8 p.m. And then the last Friday of every month, Sex After Faith. I think that's going to be the schedule for a good while. Yeah, and then now, I have special guests from time to time. But Without Faith says, how would King David feel about a No Kings protest? Did anybody who's watching, did anybody go to a No Kings protest? I saw a a post. It was a white woman who said somebody asked her about the lack of diversity at a particular No Kings protest. And this white woman said, this is not a safe space for people of color. She said, if they're out here, they're targets, they're this, they're that. She said, we're going to something to the effect of, we're going to stand here for them because this isn't a safe space right now. I thought that was a very beautiful sentiment. And to be honest, I didn't go to the No Kings protest this past Saturday because I already had plans. But the first one, I didn't go because of that very reason, because it was getting very, everything was happening with ICE in different cities. And I said, no, I'm not putting myself on the line in one of these protests. Not yet, not right now. But I love the fact that it was so well attended. I cannot wait to see the fire and the fervor translate into votes and to see these fucking losers, because that's what they are. This administration, they are losers and they're causing all of us to go down with their ship. And I cannot wait to see them lose any of the power that they're wielding right now. I cannot wait. But then anybody go to a No Kings protest? Let me know in the chat if you did. And once again, giving a shout out to Patreon supporters, everybody who joined the Patreon. Thank you all for rocking with the channel. Some folks give $5 a month, $10 a month. Some folks give even more than that. But anybody who supports the channel, I appreciate it. Lets me know that this is valuable and that this is worth my time for you, that I continue to pop on just to help send the word that you're not alone, you're not crazy. And, I said the schedule for this channel is Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Friday, but a lot of my activism is really done on my Facebook page, where I'm there just posting things for people to think about. And theists and atheists come to the page and just dialogue. And you think, oh, you're not doing anything just by that. You'd be surprised the kind of emails I get from people, not people who are necessarily leaving the faith all the time, people who are just thinking through issues. Like, man, maybe I don't want to stand so firmly on that anymore because I never thought about it like that. Deconstructing pastors, deconstructing seminary professors, people who are in the closet still pastoring and are trying to figure out, I don't know how I'm going to explain this to my spouse, to my children, to my congregation. What am I going to do for work now? What am I going to do for my family's health care now? I'm just not sure. Could you talk a little bit more about? And I'm having these conversations with people. And then your comments, when you, even just by you liking the stuff that I post, let alone getting in the comments and going back and forth with people, it's helping people realize, oh, so I'm not the only one. I wouldn't be alone. If I left this thing, I wouldn't be alone. I'd be with these people. And damn, look how reasonable they are. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of my activism is actually done on my Facebook page. So if you're not following or friend on Facebook, you're missing most of what I actually do in terms of helping pull people out of mythology and into reality. So just share that for you. My Facebook page, I'll drop it in the chat for those who are not up on it. It's just my name with a changed moniker in the middle. So find me on Facebook at Brady Fanatic Goodwin. Fanatic is a play on my old rap name. I used to be known as Fanatic, which was short for Fanatic for Jesus, but no longer. So if you're a theist, particularly a Christian theist, and you want to tell me why you believe in the resurrection, why I should believe in the resurrection, why should anybody believe in the resurrection? I don't think there's good reason for it. I don't think there's good proof for it. And if you can't call in to defend it, maybe that should tell you something. If your reason is, I get this feeling from it, or at the darkest point of my life, I was told this message and it meant a lot and I changed my life. All those things are true for me too. I felt something in it. I don't know if it was a dark period in my life, but I was 16 years old and read the Bible on my own and got introduced to ideas, to concepts that I had never considered. Just eternity, the eternality of something must have, if anything exists, it seems to make sense that something must have always existed. What is that? And I opened Psalm 90 verses 1 and 2, and it answered that question. The thing that always existed was God from everlasting to everlasting. And the God that verse was talking about won me over. And I went back to Genesis and started reading, and I got all the way to the New Testament. Oh yeah. And I believed it. I thought I had good, and it warmed my, if I had to use the colloquial language, it warmed my heart. It stirred my soul. I looked at the longevity of the message, like our first caller said, look how long it's been around. That must be evidence of its truthfulness. I said, man, look how long this message has been being told. And this is the God who made the heavens and the earth. And I didn't realize how gullible I was just to read something and think, oh, it must be true. I just thought, man, look at this book that time has not been able to erase. I'm going to be part of this legacy, this Christian message. It changed the world. It was a force for good. His disciples believed that they were willing to die for it. This book that talks about it, look, this, and I don't think I knew the terminology, but this book is without error. It's the word of God. It's testifying to these things. He did miracles. He was a miracle worker. If he did miracles, if that part's true, of course, I had no reason to, or no way to verify that it was true. I just took it for granted that the miracles were true. And if the miracles were true, then the resurrection was true. I had no good reason to believe it, but I thought I had all the best reasons. And I ran with it until I ran into reason. And reason argued against belief. And even though I fought against it, I eventually had to let it go. Maybe that's you. Maybe you thought you had reasons. And now as you run through your list, you're like, I would call in, but I don't know if I have reasons that are worth calling about. If you don't have reasons that are worth calling about, maybe that's a sign. I don't mean sign like a divine sign. Maybe that's an indication that it doesn't deserve your faith. There are certain things that don't deserve your faith. I had to repossess my faith from this message. That started 10 years ago. It's the best decision of my life when I had to take responsibility for me, for my thoughts, my decisions, my actions, my future, my finances, my friendships, my relationships. I had to take responsibility for me. It was frightening, but it was freeing. And I would not change that for the world. Anybody, this is your chance to call in. I'm going to drop the link in the chat again. I see a super chat that just popped in from Zenzana. Hope I'm saying that right. Zenzana says, I was a Patreon supporter under Lavina Ortega. I discontinue all of my Patreon support. Can I just join your channel and pay you directly instead of through Patreon? Love you and Durante. So here's what thank you for the super chat, first of all. When I get some time, it's probably not going to take a lot of research. I need to research what YouTube takes, because I don't get 100% of your Patreon support. I don't get 100% of YouTube if I start a YouTube, but I think YouTube takes more. But if it's more convenient for people, and I think I would like for people who are supporters, for you to show up in in the YouTube chat as an actual supporter, I would love to be able to give you all that sort of benefit as well. So I'm going to look into it. And if it's negligible, if like YouTube only takes like, 10 cents or 20 cents more per dollar, I might just do it anyway, or I might keep them both. And then you guys can choose if you want to be Patreon or YouTube supporter. So in April, sometime in April, I'm going to look into that and I'll let you guys know what I decide. But thank you for the support. Appreciate you. James Pesh, what's happening, yo? Maybe I should have warned you before I just brought you in. I'll bring you back on when you unmute and get the camera ready. I see you in the studio. Yo, is that Imani? Is that who I think it is? Imani says you can do both. I think Patreon takes less. Yeah, that I was always told that when I first got on from other people who stream, other podcasters. They told me that Patreon takes less. So we'll see. James, you ready? It says James is not connected, so maybe not. My unique Monique says I consider Patreon my tithe. Hey, I'll tell you what, when I stopped believing, I actually started giving more because I was always a little suspect about giving, in church, like, man, where's this really going? What's happening with this? And so even though I was giving as a Christian, I was still giving to people more than I was giving to the church, just because I didn't, even as a Christian, I just didn't trust the system. I felt better about giving where I knew where it was going. But then when I became a unbeliever, it didn't happen like intentionally. I didn't say, now I'm going to give more to prove that I'm not a bad guy. It wasn't that. Like, it was almost like the Grinch, when the Grinch's heart grew two sizes that day when he when he had his change of heart. When I became an unbeliever, it's like my heart grew. I just had compassion for people. I think here's what made me start giving more when I became an unbeliever. When I realized, there's no one in heaven to help them. Oh shit, we better help each other. Like, because as a believer, like, I'm praying for you, and then you shoot up a prayer like maybe God will move someone else to help that person. Once you lose that, like nobody in heaven's going to help them. It's like, so it's on us. And so I really did. I started giving to many, many more people, like as long as I could afford it. And I would look for reasons to give. There was one time I bought a couch. I bought a new couch and I had to send it back because it wasn't good. But I had another living room set in a different room. I just moved that into my main lounging room. And the money that I got back from the couch that I sent back to the store, I said, I was going to spend that money anyway. Okay, let me still go ahead and spend it. And I just gave it to people. I was going to spend it anyway. I gave it to people. That was just a natural, no one else is going to help. And I can, let me. And so, yeah, more than a tithe. It's my tithe and offering at this point. All right, James is back. Oh, let me see. There's a message in the. Okay, cool. Hold on. I lost there we go. My guy, what's good, man?
Hey, Brady, am I audible?
Yep, you're good.
Cool. Yeah, so the prompt was about
no good reason, no good proof for the resurrection.
No good proof for the resurrection. So I was going to ask you if you had read Gary Habermas's minimalist approach, or if you've seen research on it yet.
So about a half hour ago, I saw your comment on Facebook, and my response was, I've never read Gary Habermas. I'm never going to read a book that thick in my life. Like,
okay, yeah, well, I think right now it's 4 different
volumes,
very big expositions where he's laying out minimalist facts about the resurrection. And so I was just wondering if you had given it any attention?
No, I posted on Facebook about 2 years ago when he put out the third volume.
Okay.
I said, I hope that Paulogia gets rests, and that after his rest, he dives into this book so that I don't have to. And
Well,
he
he
shot back
did.
immediately
He
and
did.
said, I did.
And
Yeah.
I will say that Paulogia, if anybody doesn't know Paulogia, honestly, if you're looking at historical, biblical frames of reference and you are wanting to research historical facts, Paulogia and Shannon Q have a fantastic channel that they've developed.
And I love that they're autodidacts. Like, he's not, you know what I mean, seminary educated when it comes, but
oh my gosh,
he put in the work.
Dude,
he put in the work.
Oh my gosh, definitely puts in the work. That I don't think anybody really, I mean, the fact that Dale Allison, as a Christian scholar, a historian, is willing to go on his channel when he is a believer, and is willing to go on his channel to defend his positions and how he addresses the historicity of the scriptures. I think that says a lot about his credibility and the credibility of the channel.
And Dale Allison gave Paulogia, I think it was like an A- or something like that in his approach to the minimal facts.
Which is, man, I think I ran my recent 3 books through like scholarly rigor, and I think the best I got was a 64%. And so Paulogia's what he's done here and his research on trying to really address this case, I do feel like that it's a really, really solid argument. Now, having said that, I do think that it's important for people to understand what is being said. Gary Habermas, my cat is playing with my computer.
And for those who don't know, Gary Habermas is like he's pretty much the world of authority on the resurrection.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think that you would find any higher historical scholar today currently. So he has made this case, and it's a very large case where he's saying here are the minimal facts. And the minimal facts are saying that we start with the basics of what we do know and we try to build from there. And he's spent a lot of time on this, and it is thick. I mean, it is very thick. But it's very thick to really say not a lot. And if you look at Paulogia's critiques of it, what are the minimal things that we can say? Jesus lived. Okay, that's a fact. And basically he builds from there. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is like Jesus lived, and then we try to build from there. Like what are the minimal facts that we can say definitely happened? And they're just not that good. Like, it's just not that, like.
And but here's the thing. This is why a lot of Christians don't. It's interesting because even though he's the world leading authority on the resurrection, there are probably a lot of other Christians who would say, I don't like that approach because you're giving the unbelieving world, the critical scholarship, you're giving them too much room. Because if all you're doing is going with the least amount of agreement that you can find between theists and between, I don't know, what would you call, you have critical scholarship. What would you call Christian scholarship?
That's a good question. I think open-minded.
Conservative scholarship?
Oh, my goodness. It's hard to say.
I think conservative would probably be the best word for them.
Yeah. I mean, generally we would just call it secular scholarship. But we're discussing a biblical time frame and a biblical person, so it's very hard to just name it or as secular scholarship
Oh no, I'm sorry. My question was not about the secular scholarship. I don't mind the critical scholarship part. I'm saying the Christian scholarship that is not so critical. I feel like that needs its name, because we have people who call apologetics excusegetics, right? Like it's you're just giving excuses.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
they do have their own lane of scholarship, but it's not critical. So like I feel like it needs its own designation. And I think maybe conservative is the kindest way to refer to it.
Well, yeah, and I guess if we're talking about textual criticism, I mean, there really are only two camps. There's textual critics who are secular and follow methodological naturalism, and there are the camps that are not secular, that are deistic, theistic, polytheistic, and don't follow that same framework. It's like Humean logistics, where miracles can either be accepted or not. It's just hard to say that if you pursue scholastic endeavors and academic research, if you include that miracles could work, I don't really know what
you can't really be doing critical. You can't really be. I was going to say you can't really be doing critical scholarship, but it's almost like, can you really say you're doing scholarship? I don't know what you call that. Yeah, because it's not just the resurrection. You can go back to the dating of the Exodus, where critical scholars would say, we don't have any evidence that anything like an Exodus actually happened, and then even the time frame. But then the believing scholars, they add all kinds of reason to still accept biblical timelines, to accept the Exodus overall. I don't know. I'm confused about that now.
Yeah. It makes for a complicated conversation.
But we were talking about, Dale Allison approving of what Paula G is doing. Habermas. Oh, my point was this. My point was, there are Christians who don't like what Habermas is doing because they feel like he's giving into the secular scholarship.
And I don't understand Habermas has I think now produced 4 different books, chronicles, that are ginormous. Really, really good, like extensive research on the minimal facts of what he believes that are consensus in historicity. That's a pretty good, like the guy has done a lot of work, and I will say credit to him. Now, the claims that are being made about whether he didn't verify 500 witnesses from his historicity and his inquiry into exploration into the historicity of this, he never found all these witnesses. What he's saying, the bare minimum is that one person says that they met 500. And so he extends that to more of a claim that more than one person says there were more than 500 witnesses, which that now makes that claim of, because you have the Apostle Paul saying that it happened, and you have the Book of Acts saying that it happened. So on 2 different occasions, you have 2 different people saying that more than 500 people saw this thing, the resurrected Jesus. That's a way of trying to say, like, minimally, we have 2 different people saying something that makes sense. But we don't even, those timelines don't even interact. And the majority of people believe that the first correspondence never interacted with the second. And so you have different timelines, like these are 30, 40 years apart. And that doesn't seem like a lot now in our technological timeline. Like I can go back and
especially
watch the moon landing
in Trump years where 1 week feels like a year.
Yeah, if everything is worked out and we don't have a really good historical record of how to keep track of things, 6 months, 1 year is a lot of time. 30, 40 years is a lot of time. And these minimal facts break down because we actually can't confirm these minimal facts. A lot of the like Joseph of Arimathea seems to not. We know that.
Hey,
person existed.
James, hold on.
Yeah.
You're breaking up really bad. You're breaking up
My
really
bad.
bad. I'll give you your screen is glitchy too. Let's wait a couple seconds and see if it comes back in. Jesse said in the chat, Habermas just got exposed. Are you talking about the video that Paula Gia just put up?
Oh yeah, good.
Where I haven't even watched it. I can only imagine. Are they talking about his claims that X amount of scholars accept such and such a claim, and Habermas was supposed to be like, sort of like compiling a list?
I think there was a claim that more historians accepted a verisimilitude of facts that hasn't actually been corroborated. That he's saying that this is historical fact, and I don't think it is. I think that there is some place in his book where he claimed that, but I think more than not, it's just lackluster. It's a lot of claims to back up things that don't matter. They don't corroborate the story. They don't actually make the resurrection true at all.
Mm-hmm.
So these minimal facts.
Well, here's how it would hit me.
Nothing.
Here's how it would hit me, and I have to be very careful because, like I said, I haven't read Habermas. I've only heard him summarized by Paula Gia.
Yeah.
But when I hear the claims, and even when
Yeah.
I have seen Habermas's videos with other people responding to Paula Gia. So I have heard his points, but even when I hear his points, I'm like, wait, so if that's what you're saying, the strongest case that can be confirmed with consensus is, to me, the minimal facts lead to minimum faith. Like if that's the strongest that we could say where there's consensus, that doesn't make it a stronger case. That makes it a weaker case.
Okay. That's interesting.
Like why would the minimal facts bolster my faith instead of making me say, oh, well, if that's all, why am I believing it?
I think it leans on this idea that you accept, like, Caesar of Augustus existed.
Mm-hmm.
You accept that Nero was a real leader. You accept that Alexander the Great existed. You accept all of these things based upon less minimal facts than the minimal facts that we have for this Jesus of Nazareth character. And I think that's the case that Gary's making.
Yeah, that's maybe, but we know why that's a terrible argument, right? I mean, the minimal facts about Caesar.
It is, but if you want to go through all the steps and read through all of what the evidence is, that's the case that I believe is being made, is that the minimal facts tell Gary Habermas that a resurrection is more likely than not. And that's the case that all four of the chronicles are making, is that if you base all of this conglomeration of eyewitness testimonies,
that's embarrassing, isn't it?
It is
like
a bad.
To claim you've got a living God behind you, giving, like, what did Paul say? Our message did not come in persuasive words or this, that, or the third, but in power and demonstration.
Yeah, and Gary doesn't lean on the Apostle Paul much on an eyewitness testimony. Like, the minimal facts is mostly applies to the resurrection and the writing and the way that it was written and why it matters and makes sense that it was a truthful account. Now, a truthful account doesn't necessarily mean that it was truthful. It means that was what the people who were reporting what they thought they saw and heard and things like that. So what Gary is arguing is that these are truthful accounts by all historical ways of recording evidence.
That seems deceptive too to me, though.
I know,
it's like,
I know.
To argue for truthfulness, and then have a caveat. I'm not arguing for truth. I'm arguing for truthfulness.
Well,
that's crazy.
And I don't think Gary would say what I said. I think that Gary would lean hard that the evidence.
But I think you're right in framing it that way, and I think because that's the most you could say. I'm not saying that it's true. I'm saying the least we can say is they were being truthful. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yes.
But all you're doing is you're making it one more step removed from truth.
However, many historical scholars who believe that the Greek Stoics were writing the Gospels in aftermath in order to convey a message, they would have written it in this way to bring veracity to the scriptures and to bring in the historicity of the time, that these authors would have been aware of Judeo-Christian, or they would have been aware of the Roman customs, the Judaism customs, and when they wrote this, they wrote it in a manner that would fulfill a lot of these. They wanted to construct a story. And so a lot of people have said that the writers of the Greek New Testament, that they had an intention to corroborate all of these stories into one narrative that would make sense. And so they included these writing styles on purpose. And like the women at the tomb.
That may be true. That may be true. Yeah. But here's what I say. I'm gonna let you go after this because I'm probably gonna hop off soon if nobody else calls in. But I want to clear the line real quick.
Yeah, no.
I think the sign of Christianity should not be a cross. I think the sign of Christianity should be a library. Because the strength of the God of the Bible is books, is claims. The God of the Bible, he outdoes every other God in book writing projects. That should be the sign of Christianity.
Right. Yeah.
And until he does something outside of a book.
I have also heard an empty tomb. An empty tomb is the best, because you can't argue an empty tomb, because there never was an empty tomb. There was
how about an empty tomb filled with books? That's
I love it.
Christianity.
I mean, really, all we have to go on for any evidence for the God of the Bible are books written by other men, because the God of the Bible hasn't shown up yet. I don't see him.
Claims.
You see him?
Claims. He's strong in claims.
We keep
He's
waiting.
Weak
we
in
keep
evidence.
asking him to show up. He could show up right now, and it would change the world. Right now, Brady.
Hey, so I just told Matt Dillahunty on my page. There's a guy who commented on my page, and he said to me, he said, rather than spending time, no, this is a different guy. He challenged me to pray and ask God to reveal himself to me and reveal to me the truthfulness of God's word. That was Saturday. Saturday night when I was laying in bed, I said, you know what? Why not? This is the second time I've done this off of somebody on Facebook challenging me to do it. I was laying in bed and I said, I prayed the same thing he asked me to pray. That I said, God, if you're real, because that's what he told me to pray. Say, God, if you're real, reveal yourself to me. I'm laying in bed and I say to him, God, if you're real, reveal yourself to me. And then I said, and show me the truthfulness of your word. But I noticed by the time I got the word, I realized that I was shaking my head while I was saying it, because my body language revealed more than what my mouth was saying. Like, I don't believe this shit.
Interesting.
So I stopped myself and I challenged myself to change not just my language, my body language. And I said, yo, try to just have faith. Exactly. And so I started over and I gave myself permission to just like, what if? What if it was real? And I tried it again and I prayed the prayer. God, if you're real, reveal yourself to me and show me the truthfulness of your word. I was laying in bed. So after that, I went to sleep. I thought maybe I'll have a dream and then I'll wake up and I'll have to like argue with myself. Was the dream God or was it just me? Maybe, who knows? But no, I didn't even have a dream. Nothing happened. I forgot about it until later on that day. Matt Dillahunty commented on the guy's comment. And I said, yo, I just remembered I did do what he asked me to do. I prayed last night. Not a damn thing happened. And this just goes to the point that you were just making, James. We've asked God. We've asked for a sign. We've asked for Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing outside of us having to do all the work of trying to think, well, maybe when this happened, that was God. Or maybe, I got my records on the wall up here. They're held up by tape and it's so old that one of them is kind of like peeling off the wall. And just as I started telling this to you, I said in my mind, I said, what if while I'm telling this story to James, the record falls off the wall and a Christian's going to watch saying, see, that was God giving you your sign. Like in my mind, I'm already trying to think about what could happen that I might want to give God credit for, because I'm struggling to give him credit for something because he's not doing shit on his own.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to think about. Now, in hindsight, because I was a faith healer. I've done, I traveled around the world. I smuggled Bibles into countries that right now we're at war with. I have seen the gamut of this thing, and the only time I've ever seen a God speak is from the mouth of a man. I've never experienced a God speak.
Yeah,
not one time. If you say when I read the Bible, did it speak to me in the same way poetry speaks to me, in the same way that if I read a good novel, it speaks to me? Yeah,
no, but hold on, just for the watcher, at that time you weren't saying, oh, it's speaking in the same way as poetry.
I thought it was the Holy Spirit conveying messages to me that were for me from a living God. In hindsight, it seems so ludicrous to even fathom that is what you thought, that your interpretation of an English translation of a book that you're reading from thousands of years ago in another language that has probably been mistranslated, that you were getting the words from a living God. And now you should apply that to your life. in hindsight,
when you said that, the way you just said that, it's crazy, yo. It's crazy. And now you should apply that. It
wasn't that crazy back then, though. We thought we were right. We thought we were right.
True.
And we thought that this was a word from a living God. Like I just heard the voice of the Holy Spirit. He just spoke to me. Dude, now I read literature and poetry, and I am moved in similar ways. Even reading cosmology and mathematical equations about how the universe may be framed, I get in awe, and I am just in wonder and just think it's amazing. But I don't think a God is speaking. I don't think somebody just whispered from the cosmos, like outside of time and space, spoke into my,
So you know what I do? You know what I do, James? When I have those experiences, when if I'm watching something about the cosmos or the quantum or whatever, or if it's poetry, music, I feel those vibes. But you know what I do? I tell myself, don't marvel at that. You're a part of this.
Yeah. Right.
You're part of this. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, that's so fun. I do like to have those experiences. It's awesome to be an observer and to sit and look. Like I've seen a butterfly flutter around a flower for a while and just sit in awe and wonder and just go, wow, the majesty of that. But to think, but also I'm that too. Like the exact thing I'm witnessing and seeing this butterfly that's just so majestic and lovely. I am that too. We're all part of this, and that's why I love the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. And if we ever get high together and we want to talk about it, I'd love to explain to you how I understand quantum wave functions and the many worlds interpretation of the universe and how we are all in flux. But other than that, man, I love you, Brady. I love what you're doing. And anytime you want to
thank you, bro.
Me up, man, I'll be a moderator or whatever. However you need help, let me know.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. I'll talk with you soon, James.
Love you, bro. Later.
All right. Love you too, man. Peace. All right. So it's been 2.5. If there are no callers, if no Theus wants to tell us why we should believe in the resurrection. Maybe you have some proof, some evidence, a argument even that you think is compelling. This is your chance to call in. This is your chance to represent. Get some more jewels in your heavenly crown. Please your heavenly Father. Win a soul, mine or some other person who's watching. This is your chance if you think that there's a good reason to believe that Jesus was raised from the dead. I'll drop the link in the chat one more time. And if you're on Facebook, it's the top comment pinned. Otherwise, I'll give you guys an update on my my edibles. Y'all know I had a bad experience over a week ago where I fainted 3 times at a concert because I had a bad reaction. I was dehydrated and had overstimulated and all that. I wasn't really nervous to go back to it because I've had 2 other bad experiences and I still went back and had great times. So I have gone back to my edibles. Sunday was when I had the bad experience. Not yesterday, Sunday, 8 days ago, Sunday, had the bad experience. And I stayed away just for like maybe 3 days, 3 or 4 days. And then I've gone back several times since then and have had very good experiences. My normal dosage, same dosage I took that time. Very great experiences. As a matter of fact, as soon as I get off of here, I'm going to go have some more edibles and have a great night. But we're not done yet. We have a caller who just popped in. I think this is the guy who was just in the chat. Jesus Christ, part 667. Just so you know, your camera is on. If you want to cut it off, I'll give you a second to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to bring you on screen. And the rules that I typically have, don't know if you've heard me give the rules already, but I'm going to be respectful. You're going to be respectful. I'm not going to kick you from the stage. No problem with that. But we'll be respectful. And I'm going to try to not mute you, but that will be up to you. I don't mute people so I can dunk on them or so that I could seem like I'm having more time to talk. Only going to use the mute if and only if I'm trying to get the word out and I can't. If I do mute you, please don't unmute until I say, okay, you can go, and then you can unmute just so we can make sure it's orderly. All right, I'll be bringing you into the stage now. Welcome, JC. What's going on?
Hey, I'm doing good. My connection because I'm kind of using a wash place near me, and it's probably not the best. Is it okay? Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine. How's everything going?
Cool. Things are great.
So there's a little bit of a delay.
I was walking down the street.
Hold on,
cars, huh?
There's a little bit of a delay, and that typically happens. Are you still watching this on YouTube or Facebook, or are you just in the studio with me?
No, I'm just in the studio, but I'm on some free Wi-Fi at a car wash.
Okay, that explains. I'll try to talk a little slower and wait a little bit longer for you to respond.
Okay, I can hear you great. It's completely my side.
Okay. So question, because I already think are you the Jesus Christ part that was in the chat?
Yeah, that's the name that was available on YouTube.
Okay. So are you atheist, agnostic? Where are you at with the God question?
I'm a Christian.
Christian. Okay. And do you believe that Jesus was bodily, physically resurrected from the dead?
Yes.
And do you think that there's good reason to believe it, or do you think, no, it's just something that people can believe if they hear it and it moves them?
There's many good reasons to believe it.
Let's talk about it. I'm looking for them. Are you frozen? Or are you waiting for me? Oh no. So you're frozen and I'm only hearing like 1 iota of what you're saying. But I'm very interested. You said there's many good reasons. I want to hear those good reasons. So we'll see if you get unfrozen soon. Yeah, folks in the chat are like, come on, bring the evidence. So yeah, it seems like what you said 20 seconds ago is still trying to make its way through. This seemed like it was about to be good, y'all. I'm not a praying man, but maybe pray that you get unfrozen. Oh, he dropped. Maybe he will pop back in. We shall see. I don't know. But let me go through the comments and see. Maybe he's making a comment here. Mythos Boy says, tease, such a tease. Oh, man. He said there's many good reasons. I would love to see what he thinks are good reasons. Because who knows? This might be the day. Well, I'm going to do the same topic tomorrow since Easter is coming up. I'm going to do the resurrection tomorrow as well. So maybe your connection. So he says my connection is real bad. I can walk to a better place. I'm going to be on tomorrow, 3 to 7 Eastern, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. So maybe if you get free time tomorrow, maybe call back in then and we can chop it up. But it's been 2 hours and 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do my evening due. Hope you all have a great day. Drop a comment. Make sure you like, subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I will talk to you soon. Love you guys. Patreon supporters, you guys rock like a boulder. Appreciate you to no end. And I'll get with y'all on the next one. Peace.